Hi everybody. Welcome to Connect.Tech 2020. I am your host. No, I'm kidding. My name is Homer Gaines and I am an accessibility specialist and a front-end engineer. I've been doing this for about 26 years now, I believe. Yeah, something like that. But before I jump into my talk, I would first like to thank the organizers of Connect.Tech for inviting me back for a second year to share some of my experiences and my knowledge with you all around the subject of accessibility. So Pratik and Vincent, thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys. So get into my talk is about navigating the web and some of the lessons that have been learned that I've discovered through actual work and through actual research that others have done. So Fred Seibert, we called him Pops. He was my grandfather. He was a brilliant man. Now, I'm not saying that because he's my grandpa and I love him and all that. He literally was. I mean, this guy he never went to college. He didn't have to. He had this really strange, unique relationship with all things electrical. I mean, he was the type of person that could look at electronics and he understood them just straight out the gate, which was great for him because his profession was being an electrician for Chrysler for many, many years. There wasn't much that he couldn't build if it ran off batteries or plugged into a wall. It was amazing. Like I remember one summer when we were visiting, when my cousin and I got to the house, he said, "I got something I want to show you guys." We're like, "All right, what's Pops got?" And he takes and he opens up the garage door, and he had built us a jukebox out of old car parts. And this thing was freaking amazing. I mean, it had lights that actually pulsed on beat. And this is, back in the 70s. Not saying that the technology was hard, but again, this is homegrown. So, it played the music. It had big speakers. It was booming. Dude could do anything with technology. He was very much an early adopter. If it was the latest and greatest gadget that was coming out, that actually made sense. He didn't buy every single thing, but if it was something that actually made sense that he saw value in, he would actually go, they had it. I remember my mom telling me stories about when they were growing up, how they were the first family on their block to actually have a color TV. And so, they would invite the neighborhood in and have social time right there watching TV. It was amazing. And then when the personal computers started to hit the market, of course, he was definitely going to be all over that. He had the Commodore 64, and he also had the Texas TI-99, I believe. And what's really crazy is that the first programming book that I ever saw was the book that he had for the Texas TI-99, and it was a programming language called BASIC. Yeah, way long ago. As the years went on and my grandfather got older, it's not like he lost any of his tech savviness. His mind was still very sharp, very, very into it. But what didn't play along was his eyesight. I would see him, tinkering around with things on his workbench. And, there were times, or even when he was on the computer, he had to break out that big magnifying glass just so that he'd be able to see the intricate details of what it was that he was working on. And sometimes to even read the content that was actually on the computer screen. I mean, if you think about it, that was an early accessibility tool for him, for anyone that had any type of visual disability where the glasses just weren't working for them. And so even at the age of 50 and beyond, that love and that understanding and that knowledge that he had of how things worked and how he expected things to work, he never lost that. It never went away, which is similar, if you think about it, it's similar to how we are now. We're all designers and developers. We work online. This is what we do. But take us out of the office. Take us away from the job. It's not like we would ever lose the tech savviness that we have. And when we use a tool or we use a piece of software or something, we expect it to work, regardless of how old we are. We need it to work as expected, as it should. It's supposed to perform the job that it was designed to do. And at some point in time, age is going to affect us, and we all may end up, or I shouldn't say all, but some of us may end up just like my grandfather, having low vision. But we would still expect to be able to do the things that we are currently doing right now. So when it comes to building websites, we often tend to aim for the extremes. We have, on one hand, we have sighted users, and on the other hand, we have users who are totally blind. But what about those people in the middle? What do we do about that population, that demographic? Visual disabilities are not binary. There's a range of circumstances that can affect someone's vision, such as situational impairments. Me sitting right now, I'm sitting in front of a camera and I have these lights. If I was looking at a monitor and these lights were too bright, I would be blinded by the lights. You could have your laptop outside on a bright sunny day, low contrast, you can't read the screen. We could have physical obstructions in front of us that prevent us from being able to see things. The other thing is we have medical issues, like age-related macular degeneration. That is a big one. And in most cases, we fail to take into account those users who have those mild to moderate visual disabilities or low vision. So what is low vision? In short, low vision is a loss of sight that can't be corrected by, glasses or wearing contact lenses. Someone with low vision may have, blurred vision. That's where the peripheral is hazy or out of focus. They could have hazy vision, where the full visual field is actually blurry and out of focus. They could have loss of peripheral vision. It's almost like just tunnel vision, where your peripheral vision darkens. And then there's loss of central vision, where you lose that visual acuity when you are looking directly at something. So we have to remember that accessibility is more than just meeting the requirements on paper or checking a box. It's the action taken to meet the unique needs of differently abled individuals. This is where accessible user experience design comes in, or AUXD. AUXD is where we as designers and developers and copywriters and researchers take our accessibility knowledge and apply it to a holistic view of the user's journey to provide a better experience within our products. This helps us to think about and realize the emotional aspect that is tied into using products that we often don't think about. So in reality, where there's smoke, there's fire. There was a study done by Jonathan Lazar, Heidi Fang, and Aaron Allen, where they wanted to look at and test to see if there was a correlation between sighted users and blind users' experiences with web interfaces and their mood. And what was interesting about the study is that they actually found a correlation. Basically, interfaces that were hard to use or prevented them from being able to do a task on their job or slowed them down at doing a task on their job created frustration. The person's mood deteriorated rapidly. And those are things that we actually have to keep in mind as we are building our own products. Because when you think about it, a user with low vision could have a similar emotional reaction to how our applications do not actually help them solve the problems that they're trying to do, or come up with the answers, find the answers that they're looking for when they're navigating through our content. So one of the things that I hear a lot when I'm speaking with someone who is not as familiar with accessibility as many people are, when you ask, is your app accessible? And they come back and go, well, people with disabilities don't use our product, or people with disabilities aren't online. Yeah, that couldn't be further from the truth. According to the World Health Organization, there's roughly 246 million, or 31.3% of the world's population that has low vision. Another calculation that they have is that there's approximately 39 million individuals who are blind. That's a lot of people. But let's bring it back stateside for a second. The total population of the 10 largest cities combined in the United States is 22.1 million. Imagine if 8.3 million people were unable to use your product effectively. Would you know that you just cut out the entire population of New York? Let's say that your keyboard navigation on your application is solid. Individuals can type in your URL, get to your site, go through the entire process that they're meant to go through, their user journey, successfully using the keyboard. That's just one part of the solve. So individuals who have low vision have different methods of actually navigating the web content. So yes, your navigation is good, but getting through your application could still be challenging for those individuals, because they have to use methods like browser zoom and screen magnification in order to be able to see the content, to be able to complete the tasks. How you expect users to navigate your content versus how the users actually navigate your content can be completely different. A study by Lourdes Moreno and her colleagues examined various methods that individuals with low vision use to navigate web content. And what was found is that these individuals use multiple levels of zoom and also multiple levels of magnification. It wasn't just some set value in order to see the content, because all the websites are coded differently. We all use different breakpoints for whatever it is that we have online. But some other challenges that this posed for them was vertical and horizontal scrolling. And these are challenges because they're cognitive and they're both physical. Cognitive in a way because, when you magnify the screen and as the user is reading the content, they have to remember what they read prior to that as they scroll through the screen that is no longer in view. So that content is completely gone. It's much different than when a sighted user is scanning. They have the ability to quickly jump back to see the words before, if they happen to not remember what they read. But for low vision users, it's not as simple. And then the physical aspect comes in because as you're trying to read this content, you are also navigating the site in a completely different way because you are now shifting and sliding and changing the focus depth of the website or the product that you're viewing. So what can we do? How do we address these new issues that we are trying to solve here? Well, I say new because we really haven't been thinking about them until recently. So let's start with screen magnification. What can we do to help users that have to use screen magnification? We can start with using larger fonts. Doing so would help them obviously be able to read your content more clearly. And I wouldn't recommend using like a ridiculously large font like 36 pixel, 40 pixel or whatever. No. A good recommendation would be start with 14 pixel as a base font or 16 pixel as your base font. That's a good start. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to restrict zoom. For us developers, that's the meta tag that sits at the top of the app where you set the zoom to scalable 0. No, don't do that. Bad idea. Pinch and zoom is the best thing for individuals who have low vision so that they can actually zoom in and see what's going on, especially on smaller screens. And then also, to help improve scannability, make sure that we are using visual landmarks on the site. A good one that all sites have in some shape or form is the navigation. What is recommended is having the navigation at the top so that the individual has kind of like a anchor point to go back to. Granted, I know not all designs work that way. It's just a possible solution, but something to also think about. And this scannability also helps so that the individuals can tell, your buttons and your other CTAs apart from the actual content that they're reading. In a survey conducted by WebAIM, they asked 1,224 screen reader users with visual disabilities about how they navigated the website. And 69% of the users said that they use headings to navigate the website. Another 15% said they use the keyboard shortcut for find to find the content that they want inside the website. And 7% said that they actually read the content. So I know reading the content versus, and you're thinking visual disability, keep in mind, we're talking about users with low visibility. They're not blind. They do have sight. It's just that they have different ways of seeing it. So yes, they still read the content, but they have to help them, just like a sighted user would scan through. These are the methods that they use to be able to quickly get through the content to find what it is that they need. Another tool that we have in our toolbox that helps individuals with low vision navigate our websites is the use of responsive web design. According to broadbandsearch.net, mobile traffic increased 222% over the past 7 years. And data from Statista showed that mobile is now more than half of the global internet traffic. Developers, how many times have you been handed a design for a website that focused on desktop first or larger screens first and treated kind of smaller screens as if it was an afterthought? And then designers, how often have you found yourself designing for desktop only to think about smaller screens after the fact? It's not a habit, I know. we start designing on desktops. No one starts designing on an actual mobile device or a screen that is small. I get it. But when it comes to thinking about smaller screens, it's not only about mobile phones or tablets. For instance, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, there are users who have had some issues using applications that weren't designed to fit within inside the 14 by 40 or the 1440 by 900 screen resolution, even though that's seen as desktop. And if you think about it, it really wasn't that long ago when 1024 by 768 was the resolution king. And now we have 1440 by 900, which is much larger, but still applications don't work with inside that view. Another big one that we need to also consider is contrast. And I'm sure many of you have heard about making sure that contrast is high enough, especially when it comes to web content. For those of you who may not be familiar with it, in the WCAG, it is stated in section 1.43 that text or images that look like text should have a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1 to meet the success criteria for level AA. Just in case you were wondering what may not pass, these are actual examples. Basically, this is actual content that was sent to me within the past couple of weeks. One came from a company that focused on user experience, and the other was the checkout form for a website where I was going to buy some t-shirts. And as you notice, they use a really bright yellow up against a white background. And by no means does this ever pass, any accessibility audit at all. The yellow is just extremely hard to see, one up against the white background, and then on the e-commerce site up against the gray background. And so the geek in me, I had to know, especially for the e-commerce one, because that yellow was just amazingly bright. So I went and I used WebAIM's color contraster to see, just what it was. And the contrast between the foreground and the background with those two colors came out to 1.0. Keep in mind, 4.5 to 1. And this contrast was 1.0. Yes, there are many sites out there that still do things like this today. Even though we may know that we're supposed to be designing websites and keeping, contrast and our color palettes in mind for accessible users, there are still the decisions today that are being made that aren't helping any of our customers complete what it is that they need to complete. So with all that in mind, this concludes my talk. I hope you found it informative and insightful. For me, it was definitely eye-opening as I was going through and doing the research, because yes, even though I may be an accessibility professional, there is still a lot of things that have to be researched, and a lot of things that we have to learn about how we as individuals, regardless of our abilities, how we interact with technology, especially going forward. Because like I said earlier, just with my grandfather, as he got older, his eyesight started to fail him, but he was still very much in love with technology. We're not going to stop using our phones or watching TV or, jumping on the computer to order something off of eBay or Amazon or anything like that. So things like paying attention to how users with low vision navigate websites is just as important as paying attention to navigation for sighted users, or individuals who use screen readers who may be blind. So I hope it was helpful. Again, thank you all. Hope you enjoy the rest of Connect.Tech 2020. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace.